Hi, if you like the video, please remember to subscribe.
Hi, I'm Rob from robandphoto.com, and today we're going to be looking at the JJC JFT2 wireless flash trigger system, which is a well-budget, really cheap way of giving you wireless off-camera flash for your modern DSLR. Let's move this out of the way. Your modern-ish film SLR, your old film SLR, and even old compacts like the Trip 35. So this particular pack, the JF-T2, I got, I think, from eBay or Amazon, and it was between £20 and £25. I can't remember what, but it's a bit of a bargain. And for your money, what you get is you get what's called as a master or a transmitter, and you get two of these babies, which are the receivers. But first off, let's just take a little step backwards. When you're using your camera, when you're in low light situations, often you'll want to use the flash, won't you? Your camera will have a pop-up flash just like that, which is great for certain situations, but the problem is that flash is kind of coming straight at your subject, which leads to things like red eye, leads to very flat images, and can be not that flattering. So what you want to do is get that flash, get that light source away from the camera. Imagine, you know, when you're outside and you're doing portraits of people, the sun is your main light, isn't it, most of the time, and that's up in the sky. So you want your flash to be, you know, high to the left, high to the right, that sort of thing, to produce natural looking shadows and natural looking images. And traditionally what you would do is you would have, say, a flash gun like this, and you would then have like a big wire going from the flash gun to the camera, or to some sort of thing on top of the camera. And obviously the problem with that is the wire can get in the way, you can pull it out, and you're limited in distance but by the length of the wire. Now the other great thing about the JJC system is that you can utilise lots of the old flashes you've got lying around. So for example, this old Jessup's 320 AFC flash, which is a flash that's designed for Canon EOS film cameras, doesn't work very well with the modern EOS digital cameras. When you're in automatic mode, it just doesn't like it at all, and it doesn't really work properly. It's sort of okay in manual mode, but not brilliant. And this old Miranda flash that you can see here, which is really old, the big problem with these types of flashes is the trigger voltage that operates the flash is too high for the digital SLR and could possibly fry the electronics. So you don't really want anything physical. Well, you don't want this flash sitting on top of your camera anyway, but you don't want anything physical between the flash and the camera electronics, because it could destroy the camera. But by going wireless, we can remove that danger, and these flash triggers will work with the older flashes. However, my experience has been that they'll only work with older flashes that have a few pins on the bottom like this, even though the master is very basic. See, that's what the bottom of the master looks like. I found older flashes that seem to just have one pin on the bottom. I haven't had much luck with using them. But anything that's got multiple pins like this seems to work fine. And you can pick up old flashes off eBay or down the car boot sale really cheap. So there we go. So the idea of the system is that you have your master flash, transmitter, which you then put on top of your DSLR, like so. Lock it down with that button there. You can press the test button just to get it to fire. And then this is your slave. Now if I turn this slave on, you may well have noticed already the fact that there's these little dip switches, and these allow you to change the channel. And so if I just press the test button on there, you should see the little light coming on there. And then if I put that one down there and turn this one on already, it's already on a flash. Maybe you should be able to see them both. You see both those lights? All those lights coming on at the same time? So let me angle them towards the camera. There we go. So every time I press that, that's telling the flash the trigger. And obviously the flash has to have been powered up and recycled. So what I'll do now is let me just put this flash to one side, because the idea is when you press that, bang, both flashes go off. But for the sake of showing you how the system works, I won't have both flashes going off. I just have one. So here's my little Jessup flash. I've already put a Gorilla Pod mounting on the bottom of this, but these little units have got the standard tripod mount on the bottom, so you can mount your flashes to tripods. You don't have to buy expensive lighting stands. So all I do is slide that onto there, like so. Lock it down so it doesn't fall off. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to turn the flash on. You hear it fire up. Now, I've got these Jessup flashes, and most of these old type flashes, you can't control the power on them. They're kind of on or off. They fire or they don't fire. You can't turn them down. But you can buy cheap, like Yungo flashes off eBay in different places where you can adjust the power, and that's obviously the best way to go, because otherwise you've got to control your exposure using your aperture. But just for the sake of demonstration, I've turned this one down to low. Now, what I'm going to try and show you now is, if I now press the trigger on my DSLR, if I remember to turn it on. Here we go. Hopefully, do you see the flash go off? You might not see it in the video. And let me do another one now. Remember, what you've got to do is these old flashes, especially the recycle time can be quite long, even if you put hottie batteries in. Let's see if you can see that again. So imagine, right? See, there's no connection. So I'm going to press the shutter button on my camera. There you go, bang. How easy is that? So for 20 odd quid and a £5 for the flash down the car boot, I've got two off-camera flashes that I can use. You could use one as a main light, a key light, and then one as a fill, or in the examples which I'll show you at the end of the video, what I've done is I've used the big Jessup flash as the main light, and I've used the little Miranda flash as a like a backlight that's lighting the background to make the background really, really white. Things to notice while you're using these is the fact that that they do go to sleep as well, the little receiver units, so sometimes you need to wake them up with like a test shot. So what will happen is if for example you leave them for like a few minutes, like 5 minutes, when you go and press the trigger on or press the shutter button, it won't fire the first time, but it'll fire the next time as it wakes up. Now you may well be saying, well, wait a minute, I'm used to using TTL automatic exposure using the flash, so how do I work out what my exposure should be? Well, what you do is on your camera you go to manual mode and set it for the highest flash sync possible. Now consult your manual for this, but I think for my 350D it's about a 200th of a second. You can go up to 250th, but after that you start seeing the shutter curve. It's about 200th of a second. Now this is a sort of general rule for flash. So the shutter's going to fire at 200th of a second, and then you control your exposure with your aperture. Now to work out what aperture you need to set the camera to, you look on the back of the flash and there'll be a guide. So for example, on the back of this one there's actually like this sliding thing here. So I can look at the bottom, and again this particular flash goes backwards and forwards, so you can sort of have it spread the beam, but you won't be able to see this. But at the bottom I can see that at if I'm at ISO 200, okay, and I'm at the 28mm setting on the flash, depending on how far my subject is away, I can then see what aperture I need to put in. So if my subject is 5 feet away, I need to be at f16. Yeah, if my subject is about 20 feet away, I need to be at f4. So that's, really easy way of working it out. And it does work. And the beauty, obviously, with digital is the fact that you can see the results on your LCD screen. You can put the graph on there as well, and turn the blinkies warnings on and see if you're blowing out the highlights as well, and then back it off a little bit. But I think it really is amazing. I recommend anybody who fancies having a go with off-camera flash, dig out some old flashes. Remember, don't plug them into your DSLR because it will probably destroy them. Get a couple of these one of these JF-T2 packs, and then you can have off-camera flash. Really, really, really cheap. Now, as you can see, works fine with the DSLR, but it will also work with an older film DSLR. Now this is quite a, when I say older, it's still quite a modern DSLR. This is a Nikon F55, but you know, similar sort of equivalent to any of the old EOS type cameras as well. So you can see it's not make specific. So I can put this on here now, slide that onto this little Nikon. I think the only cameras that have really different lens mounts are the Minoltas and the Sonys. So I can put that onto there, turn the camera on. Again, I would go to manual mode and I would set it for 200th of a second. I would consult the, you know, depending on subject distance, put my aperture in, and then let's see if it works with this old film camera. Let's let it focus. Let me just put it on manual focus so I don't have to worry about looking through the viewfinder. Bang, there we go. So now I've got off-camera flash on a really old film SLR. But you're saying, what about even older cameras? Well, let's take the blaster off as well. Let's go back in time to a camera that doesn't have a hot shoe. So unlike this Nikon and on my Canon DSLR and most sort of cameras, you'll have a hot shoe, and you can tell it's a hot shoe because there'll be some sort of connection on the top of where the flash goes in. So that means that when you press the shutter button, a circuit is made or broken there which fires the flash. But on old cameras like this Minolta SRT-101, it's got a cold shoe. Basically that's just a bracket to hold a flash, and there's no contact or anything like that. So it's like, oh no, what can I do? Now, after playing around with this, I've discovered you can get this to work as well. But what you've got to do is don't push the receiver all the way on, because if you short out the little pin underneath against the metal cold shoe, for some reason it doesn't work. And what you also need is you need to use the little wires that come with the pack, which are these, which are little flash cables. Now normally you would use these, you could use these with older flashes that don't have, that you need to use an X-Sync port on, or studio strobes. You would plug these into the receiver, into the side of one of these. Let me show you on this one. So you could plug that into there, for example, like so, and then plug that into the studio flash. But it also works on these by plugging the little cable into the X-Sync port there. It's a bit awkward because you've got to go round to here, but now with a little bit of luck, if I bring this round so you can see that flash. So if I wind this on, hopefully now when I fire my 1972 era SRT-101, bang, we've got off-camera flash. How good is that? So remember, you've got to be careful because you need to judge your exposures, because we can't look at the back of the screen on a film camera. But we've now got multiple off-camera flash on a 1970s film camera. But let's not stop there. Let's take this off here. Put the SRT to one side, and let's have a look at our fantastic Olympus Trip 35. And let's put this onto the top of here. Now I've got to stress, I haven't had a play of actually seeing what the pictures look like when you do this, but let's have a go. Let's wind it on and let's fire the trigger. Bang. We've got wireless flash on an Olympus Trip 35. Now you may well be saying, if you really know your stuff, the fact that there's something about the Olympus Trip 35 and the sync speed with the flash and the body. So I think what you're meant to do is, if you're using a flash on top of the Trip 35, I think you're meant to use this little wire, and what you do is you go from there into the side of the transmitter. Whoops. There. Obviously when you're plugging things in and out, you should really turn your flash off so you don't trigger it by accident. But now we have, let's see, I've wound it on. Let's press the shutter button. Oop. Flash is just charging up. There we go, off-camera flash. And the way you would do it with the Olympus Trip is that you basically come off automatic mode. You can set your aperture by there, and just remember that it's running at a 40th of a second. So that's been a bit of I know it's been a bit of a complicated video this time, but hopefully I've showed you how you can use the JJC JFT2 wireless flash trigger system to have off-camera wireless flash, not only for your modern DSLR, but you can also have it on your film SLR as well, on your old film cameras like the Minolta SRT 101, and even on something like the Olympus Trip 35. My name's Rob from robknownphoto.com. Thanks for watching.